Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hold on. Gotta rotate it. It says, hold on. Do I do it this way? Okay. Hold on, y'all. Okay, here we go. Sometimes you just gotta make adjustments. I gotta do it again. Okay. Alright. So let's see. Alright. Let's try it again. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Whew. I'm Edwina, and I always say my last name is not important because I'm just like you. And I want to invite you to have a conversation with us this morning. My friend Billy Dandridge, let me get my mom. Okay. My mother, Helen Hall, who has transitioned, as well as, okay, go back and sit down and watch TV. Go back and sit down. Thank you. Go ahead. I am challenged this morning with some little people. Go sit down, watch TV. And as you may have seen or heard, my grandchildren are up. I have two of them that are 2 years old, 3 months apart. So it's going to be a challenge, but we're going to try to get through this. Okay? So, welcome to the Free to Hope 12 Recovery Principles conversation. And I invite you to day 4. I committed to doing a 30-day presentation. And Yolanda, thank you. I have just asked my niece to take my little 2 upstairs while I do my presentation. It's one thing to ask for help and accept it. And so I thank God that I am able to practice the 12 recovery principles by asking for help. So this is, again, the Free from Recovery, Emerge Empowered to Hope, Help Others Prosper Equally conversation with Edwina. And we are going to be discussing the 12 recovery principles throughout the month of April that were modeled after the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And as a result of me being in recovery for 30 years, I have been prepared, qualified, coached, molded, shaped, formed to bring this information that we who are in 12-step programs around the world share with you who may not be in a 12-step program but can use the wisdom of the 12-step program. So the 12 recovery principles conversation that I'm presenting to you is modeled after the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And like I said, for the next 26 days, because we're in day 4, I will be presenting to you each step, each recovery principle in its entirety in terms of how they have worked for me over the past 30 years and why I needed and eventually wanted the help that was available through a 12 recovery principle program. So that's what this is about, and we are on day 4. My prayer is that everyone is safe as can be, and my hope is to provide you with some additional information and knowledge that you can utilize, internalize, and embrace as we go through this life-challenging situation. It won't be the last, and it definitely hasn't been the first, but it may be the first for you. It may be a reminder to others, but how do we learn what tools to use, what help is available to make this transition that we're going through a little more easier to deal with? And so Dr. Scott T. Allison wrote an article in Psychology Today a few days ago that talked about how we, the world, can benefit from the wisdom of the 12-step program. And one of the things that he emphasized the most, that we emphasize in recovery, is the importance, the rewards, and the benefits of learning, utilizing, and internalizing the serenity prayer, which says, Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Again, this is not a religious program, it's a spiritual program. These are not religious principles, although they did come from the scriptures. They have, Alcoholics Anonymous, utilized the spiritual aspect of the program because not many of us may be in a religious and have a religious affiliation. But in any event, we are all spiritual. We're twofold. We're human and we're spiritual. And so the 12 recovery principles, focus on the spiritual aspect of our humanness that is operating through this vehicle called the human body and walking on this earth. That makes sense? So we are spiritual beings encased in this physical body and walking this thing called life on earth. And I attribute that to a song that Donald Lawrence wrote, that the first sentence says, you are not a natural being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being living this natural experience. That makes sense? I'll repeat that. You are not a natural being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being walking this natural experience. And so with living life on life terms, we who have been in recovery since man has been trying to stop drinking since he put his foot on this earth, okay? Not that he put his foot on this earth, but since man has been a part of this earth, that he's been trying to find a way to control, if you will, his drinking habits, his bad habits, his sinful nature, if you will. And so through the recovery principle that we're going to be learning over the next remaining 26 days is going to help you learn how they helped me and millions of others who are in recovery from various things to live life on life terms, particularly in challenging situations, but also in celebratory situations. So whether we're doing very good or whether we're doing very bad or we're doing not so good, not so bad, we're in the middle, right? These recovery principles can keep us in our right size. So that's what we're here again for day 4 about, and it's called F.R.E.E. From Recovery, Emerge Empowered to Hope, Help Others Prosper Equally. And having been in recovery for, again, the last 30 years, I too have been faced with a lot of challenges, a lot of situations, a lot of circumstances, ups and downs. But one of the main reasons that I needed and wanted to be a part of a 12 recovery principle program is that I didn't want to drink and drug anymore. Yes. So I'm in recovery and have been because 30 years ago, I couldn't stop drinking. I couldn't stop drugging, and I couldn't stop doing the associated behaviors with utilizing those substances. And so February the 22nd of 1990, in the streets of Philadelphia, I placed myself underneath a parked car, getting away from a stepson that I was getting high with and doing all kinds of other things with. And I placed myself underneath that parked car to save my life. But while underneath that parked car, my life flashed before me. How at the age of 34 did I get underneath this parked car? I had aspirations of being a model, a phys ed teacher, voted most likely to succeed. I was the co-captain of the cheerleader team, the vice president of my high school class. How at the age of 34 did I get underneath that car? The flashbacks of the rapes, the beat-ups, the setups, the being passed around like a bucket, called all kinds of names, my family disowning me, my children ashamed of me. How did I get underneath that parked car at the age of 34? The suicide attempts, trying to get out of this devastating thing called addiction that I had no idea about. And for me, when they say that you hit bottom, well, that was a literal bottom for me 30 years ago underneath that parked car in the streets of Philadelphia. I then, unknowingly to me, went to a place that's within my spirit that was obviously created by God to say, when that student is ready, the teacher will appear. You can go in there, but their sippy cups are on the couch. But when I asked and hollered out to this creator that, again, I had no idea about, I hollered out, whoever they say you are, take me out this life or show me a better way. Take me out this life or show me a better way. And that was my rock bottom. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So for me, the 12 recovery principles helped me with my drug addiction and associated issues. But more importantly, and which is what I want to discuss with you, you may not have the disease of addiction or alcoholism like I did and so many of us do. Nor do I wish it on anybody. But you may be going through things that you don't understand. And you may be exhibiting some behaviors that are unhealthy. Maybe you are in some situations that you don't need to be in. Maybe you are chasing something that's unattainable, right? Because most human beings are so used to looking for external things to deal with things that are going on inside of us. Yes. We go shopping. We have sex. We are workaholics. We buy clothes. We get into unhealthy hobbies, right? And so we think we are dealing with whatever situation we are, but we're really not. Because we are escaping through those things externally that we need to be addressing with help that's inside of us. So the 12 recovery principles for the past 30 years initially helped me with my drug addiction and alcoholism and all associated issues. However, you can relate to this. The 12 recovery principles also has helped me deal with cancer. I'm a cancer survivor of 30 years. It also helped me with dealing with the remorse and the guilt and the regrets of abusing and neglecting my children during my addiction. The recovery principles has helped me deal with the domestic violence that I was involved in and out of addiction. Yes. domestic violence. Recovery principle helped me to deal with that situation and freed me. Yes. The recovery principles has also helped me with mental illness. Why? Because the 12 recovery principles allow me and others, and can do for you, to deal with the issues that are inside of us that we normally would not want to expose or to share with anyone. For instance, fear. How many of us want to tell somebody we're afraid, we're scared? We should, but many of us don't. Why? Because we are afraid of being judged or criticized. So acknowledging that their fear is in us and we're thinking about it and we're feeling it, we don't expose it. So what we do with that fear, we pick up. This is a cup of coffee. Some people are addicted to caffeine. Smoking. To deal. What other issues that are inside of us? Jealousy, insecurity, instability, competitiveness, lack of high esteem, suffering from low self-esteem, not being able to fit in, not having a sense of belonging. These are things that are inside of us that we're thinking, that's generating feelings, and feelings generating thoughts that we are not talking about. We are not availing ourselves to what is out there to help us deal with those feelings inside. And so what we do is we create some unhealthy thoughts, attitudes, and behaviors. Well, the 12 recovery principles are here to help you, to help me, to help those that are yet to come, who are going to need these 12 recovery principles. So our goal is prevention. By sharing these 12 recovery principles with as many people as possible, can help prevent a lot of issues, a lot of pain, a lot of dysfunction. If we share these 12 recovery principles to others as early as possible. Then we also want to emphasize intervention, particularly now with this coronavirus pandemic that's going on. What can these 12 recovery principles do now to help us, me, you, the world, deal with what this thing is bringing about? It's not the first time that man has gone through something like this, and guess what? It won't be the last time. But what can we do, you, I, the world, individually and collectively, right now? What can I use right now? What could you use right now? What can we use right now to help us deal with what's going on that's generating a lot of fear, insecurity, the whole 9 yards? So if people who are in recovery and have been or just starting out, these 12 recovery principles need to be emphasized, a lot. Because we don't want to go back to drinking and drugging. It's only going to make the situation even worse. Right? But we also want to intervene now so that we don't have the potential of making someone an alcoholic or an addict. When people don't know what to do, when people don't know what's going on, sometimes they think that they're dealing and they need to calm down or they need to think about some things, and they start picking up unhealthy things on the outside to deal with what's going on in the inside. So when we talk about what's going on in the world today, I ask myself in terms of intervention, what can I do? What can I give? What can I share to help you, and whoever will listen? Well, I can share how the 12 recovery principles have helped me throughout the years and have helped me to be prepared for situations like this. Yes, for situations like this. Because I don't want to go back to drinking. I don't want to make ends meet by going out and prostituting again. Yes. I don't want to go out and rob people and rob stores again. Things I used to do to support my habit. But these 12 recovery principles has helped me to identify what I can do through the serenity prayer, what I need to accept, and ask for courage to change the things I can, and most importantly, the wisdom to know the difference. And so if I didn't have these 12 recovery principles in my life today and have been prepared for what's yet to come, I'll probably be drinking again. And some of you are. I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't, but I'm letting you know my experience. I can't drink again. Even if I could drink again, I don't want to drink again. I want to use these 12 recovery principles to help me deal with what's inside and expose them, to get help for them, to put them in this right perspective. Alcoholics Anonymous can stand for AA, attitude adjustment. Yeah. And so my way of providing intervention help is by doing what I'm doing now. Sharing with you my experience, my strength, and my hope about the 12 recovery principles. And then the third part is restoration. Once we get through all of this, and we don't know when and how we're going to get through it, we really don't. Everybody has all these solutions, these alternatives, these projections, these pathways, but nobody really knows. But the question is, what can I do? What can you do to help yourself and to help those immediately around you? And if each one of us did that, then once we get through this, using the 12 recovery principles can help restore our life. Help put our lives back together after learning some important information as a result of going through this experience. So that we can learn what we need to do differently so it doesn't be repeated. So these 12 recovery principles are for prevention, for intervention, and eventually for restoration. Individually, collectively, and as a country or world at large. Okay? So, let me start off again. This is F.R.E.E. from Recovery, Emerge, Empowered. From recovery, emerge empowered. Use these 12 recovery principles to help you emerge empowered. Once you become emerge empowered, then you will be able to give hope. Hope to others. Help others prosper equally. Not prosper, I'm not talking about financially, I'm not talking about materialistically, I'm talking about prosper spiritually. Yes, this is an inside job. I need to prosper from within. Not look at the external things that I think can create happiness or think that will make me happy. They don't. Things do not make me happy. Money do not make me happy. What makes me happy is a peace of mind, serenity, a sense of comfort, a sense of belonging, tranquility. So we're talking about help others prosper equally. Because as human beings, we are all ill to some extent. But we can help each other prosper equally spiritually. So, because I could not conduct my 2020 free tour that God had prepared me to go around the world to share these 12 recovery principles during the year of 2020. And it started in Delaware in February. And I was slated to go around the world sharing this information. But because I needed to accept the things I could not change, meaning what's going on in the world, I needed to find another way utilizing the 12 recovery principles of another option. And guess what that option is? Me sitting before you right now. Okay? Yes. And so maybe, not just maybe, it's obvious and it's reality that this is where I needed to be, and you're sitting out there listening to me for, I will call, the purpose of divine intervention. Yes. So that same information I will be giving around the world, I'm now giving to you. Okay? So, what are the 12 recovery principles? Well, I'm glad you asked. Like I said, this is a conversation. So the 12 recovery principles that are modeled after the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I am not a representative of Alcoholics Anonymous, but I have been a member for the past 30 years. And in our 12th step principle, it says, the second part, we try to practice these principles in all our affairs. So what I learned going to my 12-step meetings over the last 30 years, that I need to practice what I learned there in all of my affairs. All of my affairs. Who would have thought that 1 hour a day gives me and others the information, the foundation, the basis to live the other 23 hours without drinking, without drugging. That's a great investment, isn't it? 1 hour. Give us all the information we need to live the other 23 hours by practicing these 12 recovery principles in all our affairs. So, just to list what the 12 recovery principles are, once again, you may know them, you may not. This may be your first time. So I think repeating things, repetition, is very helpful. So recovery principle number 1 says, we admitted we were powerless over. And in my case, I was powerless over my addiction. I was powerless over my alcoholism. And as a result of that, my life had become unmanageable. So you could fill in what you are powerless over. We admitted we were powerless over this coronavirus pandemic. We are powerless over how people are reacting to it. We are powerless over the ripple effect that it is having. We are powerless over what people are doing and saying. As a result of that powerlessness, if I feed into it, my life will become unmanageable, or my life is unmanageable. And that's where that serenity prayer come into play. So with recovery principle number 1, we admitted we were powerless over, you fill in the blank, and that our lives had become unmanageable. If you can't get it that way, well, ask yourself right now, is my life unmanageable? And in what areas? Why is my life unmanageable? Is it because of the coronavirus? Yes. Am I powerless over it and what it's doing around the world? To some extent, yes. But these 12 recovery principles can help you to find out and identify what you can do. You can do. You can do. And through that serenity prayer, courage to change the things I can. So what do I need to do? What do I need to face? Because courage is basically fear, but do it anyway. So we want to face everything and recover. We want to face everything and rejoice. We want to face everything and rebuild. So we have to have courage to do that. So what can I do? And then the last part, wisdom to know the difference. So once again, the first recovery principles is we admitted we were powerless over and that our lives had become unmanageable. That's the only principle we have to do 100%. 100%. The second recovery principle that we did yesterday was came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I'll repeat. Recovery principle number 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. You saying I'm crazy? No. What does sanity mean? Soundness of mind. Came to believe that a power greater than me could restore me to soundness of mind. The example I gave, well, because I've been working these 12 recovery principles in my life, I've been restored to soundness of mind to know that if I pick up a drink or a drug, I'm only going to pick up where I left off at, and it will probably be, it will be a lot worse. So soundness of mind that I've been restored to by a power greater than me has helped me to make some better decisions, do the next right thing. Because that power greater than me gave me information, tools to use to be restored to soundness of mind. The third recovery principle that we're going to be focusing on today is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Let me repeat that. Recovery principle number 3 is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. I don't have to accept your God. You don't have to accept my God. I don't have to accept their God. As you understood Him. As you understand Him. But we ask whoever your God is, whether you believe or don't believe, that is caring and loving. But once I admitted I was powerless over my drug addiction, I came to believe that a power greater than me could help restore me to soundness of mind. It took me a number of years to recognize and accept that it was my creator. But once I realized that, then the third recovery principle was easy for me. Made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of a God that of my understanding. Okay? So we're going to be focusing on that recovery principle today. Recovery principle number 4 is made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. What do you mean by inventory? Well, you know how you have stock in stores and they do an inventory of what's good, what's bad, what's not selling, what's selling good, how do we place, what do we need to get rid of, what need to we get more, what needs to be eliminated. Well, we're going to take through recovery principle number 4, made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. Our character defects, our character assets. What are we made of? To thy own self be true. And we want to tell you and show you and demonstrate how that inventory is conducted, because that inventory is going to help you go from outside to inside and bring the inside outside. Yes. Mm-hmm. We have to admit, we have to reveal. So making that inventory is essential in this thing called recovery. Being free to be emerged empowered. Yes. Recovery principle number 5 is admitted to God, of your understanding, to ourselves and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. Recovery principle number 5, admitted to God, who already knows everything, to ourselves, we know everything too, but to another human being, ooh, that sounds scary, but it's freedom. Because when we do recovery principle number 5, we're going to learn how to get to the exact nature of some things. Jealousy was the obvious, but jealousy was followed by insecurity. Insecurity was followed by fear of being alone. So we get to the exact nature. So that's recovery principle number 5. Recovery principle number 6 says, we're entirely ready. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character that has been revealed in step recovery principle number 4 and number 5. Wouldn't you want all of that stuff to be removed? We are born with natural instincts. And character defects are nothing more than natural instincts that have far exceeded their purpose. That's all character defects are. And we're going to get into that a little more detail. But I was entirely ready for God to remove any and all things that was going to prevent him from helping me, using me, molding me, shaping me, and preparing me for things like today. And what I have been prepared for to deal with the last 30 years, because I was entirely ready for God to remove these things from me. And his time, I just needed to be willing. So that's what recovery principle number 6 is. And recovery principle number 7 says, humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. Recovery principle number 7, humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. Well, now that I have been able to identify some character defects, and because I am entirely ready to have God remove them, they may not be removed right away. And so there are times that I will fall short. I will make the same mistake again. I will fall into that trap again. Sometimes intentionally and sometimes unintentionally. But because of awareness that I know I shouldn't have said that. I know I shouldn't do this. But for some reason I want to do. I want what I want when I want it. Yes. But when I have that voice that says, hey, Edwina, you shouldn't do that. Well, I can't rely on myself to not do it. I have to call on him to remove that shortcoming, to not help me fall short. Help. This is a we thing. Our, I, we, our. This, ourselves. So I need to ask help from that creator who is working on removing those defects, but I fell short. I fall short. But I have a way out. I can humbly ask him to remove it. Okay? Recovery principle number 8 says, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. What you mean, make a list? Yes. Well, in step 4, when we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, we found out some things about ourselves, and we found out some things that we did to other people. Regardless of what they did to us, but we needed to be held accountable for the part we played in it. And so in recovery principle number 4, we identified the players, the situation, what feelings it generated, and then what part I played in it. So taking that 4th step inventory of all those people that were identified. We take that and we compose our recovery principle number 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. We need to be set free. So when we talk about free from recovery, emerge empowered, we have to be willing to list those individuals we hurt, we have caused harm to. And guess who's at the top of the list? You, me. We have caused more harm to ourselves than anybody. But if I'm not willing to make amends to myself, how in the world can I make amends to anybody else? So by putting myself on the list, my family, you go down and you have a column that says, these are the people I know I hurt. And I'm willing to make amends to them. Then you have a middle column that says, maybe I'll put them on a list. Maybe I'll become willing to make amends to them. And you talk about the situation. Then you have a third column that says, I will never make amends to these people. And what happened in the situation? The fact that we just asked you to make a list. And as you develop your list of those you had harmed, you will eventually become willing to make amends to them all. Because you don't want to give anything or anybody that much power ever again to steal your joy, your peace, your serenity. And in our case, to make me go back to drinking and drugging again, oh, hell to the no. I'm not giving you this coronavirus, none of that power ever again to make me go back to drinking. Okay? So recovery principle number 9 says, may direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. I repeat, recovery principle number 9 says, may direct amends to such people that we identified on our 8-step recovery principle worksheet. May direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And so when we do get to recovery principle number 9, we're going to learn how to make direct amends and indirect amends. Because we don't want to avoid anybody or any situation that we need to make amends to and for. We need to be held accountable. We need to be held responsible. We need to obtain the freedom. Yes. Recovery principle number 10 says, continue to take personal inventory. Continue to take personal inventory. Similar to the inventory we did in recovery principle number 4, well, we need to continuously take inventory of ourselves. Throughout the day, in the morning, at night. Should I have done this? Should I do that? Will I go here? I shouldn't have said that. So as long as we are continuing to take personal inventory, and this is the hit, when we were wrong, we promptly admitted it. So recovery principle number 10 says, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. First of all, nobody likes to say, I'm sorry. But we expect people to say they're sorry when they do something to us, don't we? Yes. But what is the whole idea of promptly admitting it? It doesn't fester. It doesn't rob your serenity, your peace, your tranquility. What you used to sit on for days and months, and people are carrying resentments for years. Could you imagine what's that doing to the inside? Well, recovery principle number 10 helps us on a daily basis to evaluate what our thoughts are, what our actions are, our feelings are. And when we were wrong, we promptly acknowledge it, admitted it, and we apologize, or we made amends in whatever way possible, because we want to continue this freedom. So recovery principle number 10 is continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, we promptly admitted it. Recovery principle number 11 is sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. That seemed like a whole lot. No. Listen to what it says. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God as I understand Him, as you understand Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. So you mean to tell me from recovery principle number 1 down to 9, and now that inventory through 10, that I've seen myself grow spiritually, not be so hung up on life stuff, but how to respond to life stuff and not react to life stuff. And this relationship that I've built with the God of my understanding has given me the tools and the foundation I need to go through this thing called life. Keeping a sense of gratitude, keeping a sense of joy, tranquility. So why wouldn't I want to improve that relationship? I need to keep seeking. I need to keep improving because I see the benefits and the rewards of prayer and meditation to improve that connection with my higher power. And most importantly, praying only for knowledge of His will for me and the power to carry that out. Many of us will say, well, I have an agenda today. I have things to do today. But guess who has the plan? Every morning, we are dealt a hand. Every morning. If you're card players, you don't know what's under those cards. But every day, we are dealt a hand. Will you be able to play your hand? Will I be able to play my hand? You know why I'll be able to play my hand? Because whatever hand I am dealt, using these 12 recovery principles is going to help me get through any and all things. Because number 1, I'm seeking help from where help is coming from. I'm practicing these principles in all my affairs. I am challenged to promptly admit, promptly acknowledge. Yes. So why wouldn't I want to improve that? And why wouldn't I want His will to be done? It needs to be revealed because in the serenity prayer, God grant me that serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Where's that wisdom going to come from? Praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. So, recovery principle number 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand Him. Okay? Recovery principle number 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message of the 12 recovery principles to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Having had a spiritual awakening, not a physical, a spiritual awakening. As a result of these 12 recovery principles, we try to carry this message. I'm trying to carry it to you and to you. But I'm definitely practicing them in all of my affairs. So those are what the 12 recovery principles are. So let's get, for the remaining time that we have, on recovery principle number 3. But before I do that, many of you know that for me, total transparency is the key. Practicing total honesty is to be transparent. And so before I continue, I want to be transparent. No makeup, no. I took my bracelets off, y'all. And guess what? I'm taking my wig off. I am okay in my own skin. I want to present to you who I am. on the physical, but more importantly, that you not look at the messenger, but you listen to the message. So that wig, I don't normally wear a wig anywhere, but I use it to prove a point. That I don't need the mask on. Because that's an outside job. I need to reveal what's on the inside. To their own self be true. So let's get to recovery principle number 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God, the Creator, if you will, as we understand or understood him, her, the force. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So let me use my example of how I made that decision. I made decisions all day long. From the time I woke up, the decision, am I going to get up or am I going to lay here? Am I going to go to the bathroom or am I going to pee in the bed? Am I going to brush my teeth first or am I going to get a cup of coffee first? We make decisions all day long. Am I going to go left? Am I going to go right? What am I going to put on today? Am I going to work today? Am I going to pray today? Am I going to sing today? We make decisions all day long. We make a decision not to make a decision. How about that? But guess what? For me, I made unhealthy decisions unknowingly to me in the beginning. Oh, I'm grown. 17 years old. I know what I want. I know what's good for me. I'm making a decision to leave my mom's house. I ain't got to listen to her. I ain't got to do what my dad said. I'm grown. I'm throwing my addiction. Oh, I can drink. Oh yeah, I can drink. Go to the drug dealer. Give me that bag. Give me that. Making decisions all day long. In hindsight now, those decisions had severe consequences. So I need to learn to make decisions that are going to have benefits and rewards and not consequences that are within my control, or in some cases, not control. And so in recovery, we learn that as a result of the first step, we admitted we were powerless over, and that our lives had become unmanageable, right? Then we did recovery principle number 2. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to soundness of mind. And eventually that power greater than me were my counselors, were the people in rehab, were the people at my AA meeting. They were a power greater than me. They was giving me information. They were providing me with tools and things that I could use to make a better decision based on my soundness of mind. So that was a power greater than me. And eventually, that power greater than me, I was able to identify as God. My God, the Creator. So, as a result of him removing that obsession and that compulsion of my alcoholism and drug addiction, I didn't know what was before me, y'all. But I knew I didn't want to go underneath that parked car where I was 30 years ago. I didn't want to go back there. Hell to the no, I didn't want to go back there. And underneath that car, when I cried out, whoever they say you are, take me out this life or show me a better way, that I was set on a path of recovery. I just had to make a decision to stay on this path of recovery. Yes. So when the obsession and the compulsion was moved, once I admitted that my life had become unmanageable and was totally out of control because of drinking and drugging, that I needed to put that thing down, those things down, and find out why I picked them up in the first place. I need to deal with the inside issue and not rely on the external things to ignore, escape, hide from what was going on inside. And that power greater than me, because I was the great I am. My dad taught us, you're responsible for what happens to you. There was no conception of a caring and loving God. You are responsible. But guess what? Me took me underneath that parked car 30 years ago. So I ain't as big as bad as I thought I am or was. And neither are you. Truth be told. But it's okay. Because once I identified those powers that were greater than me, I began to be restored to soundness of mind. Then I started making decisions to keep going back to my meetings, to keep going back to counseling, to keep going. You want to call it a crutch? Call it what you want. Alcohol, drugs, sex, those are crutches, aren't they? But the consequences are very severe compared to the other type of crutches. Because we are creatures of habit. Yes, we are. So I make a decision to go to my meetings every day after 30 years. I make a decision to pray to the God of my understanding every day, throughout the day, all day. I make a decision to practice doing the right thing. I make a decision to embrace this thing called life because I have a new set of tools. I'm not running anymore. I'm not fearful anymore. In the past, fear meant forget everything and run. No, these 12 recovery principles said no, face everything and recover. Face everything and rejoice. Face everything and rebuild. But I need to make a decision to turn my will and my life over to those powers that were greater than me, that help restore me to sanity, that's given me the peace, that's given me the serenity, that's given me soundness of mind to continue making the right decisions. And so I have no problems practicing every day just to make the decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of. That's the key word. We are turning our lives over to the care of the God that we understand. He took care of me during my addiction. He's definitely taking care of me in my recovery. So why wouldn't I want to make that decision? You're only making a decision. As I said, we make decisions all day long. So as a result of being freed from that obsession and that compulsion, recognizing my life had become unmanageable. And so the same thing with this coronavirus pandemic. It is making people's lives unmanageable because we're powerless over it. But there's a power greater than ourselves that can help restore us to soundness of mind. And recovery principle number 3 says, let me make that decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of the God that I understand. Even if you don't believe. And I say for those who don't believe, how much can you really change? Nothing. All you have to have is a desire and a willingness to change. So recovery principle number 3 is just making a decision. To trust, to have faith, to not give up. Make that decision. Because when you make that positive decision, you're going to have a positive outcome in the midst of the storm. You're going to have a positive outcome because you're not relying on you. You're relying on a power greater than you. Because in our past, and before we went and are going through this thing, there was a whole lot of power greater than us that we made a decision to turn our will and my life over to. I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the drug dealer, to the job when I was prostituting. I made a decision to leave my kids. Yes, all those things. But until I got into recovery and started practicing these 12 recovery principles, I make better decisions now. Because the decisions have a better outcome. Not just physically, but it starts spiritually. Because I've learned through this recovery process to empty what's inside and expose it outside, so that I could be used, molded, shaped to be prepared for any and everything that life has to offer. Are you ready to make that decision to turn your will and over to the God of your understanding today? You can. I know I will. So that concludes the presentation for today. And tomorrow we are going to be reviewing recovery principle number 4 that states made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. We'll talk about recovery principle number 4, made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. So y'all know by this time it's 7 o'clock. And I need to prepare to go to my 12-step meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous that I've been going to for the last 30 years. For 1 hour gives me everything I need to live the other 23 hours spiritually. And when it's spiritual, I make a decision to practice doing the right thing, saying the right thing. I've learned to respond opposed to react. We can make that decision. So make a decision to share this on a watch party. Make the decision to share it with other people. Make the decision to tune in tomorrow. And if you're available at 7:30 to see what a Alcoholics Anonymous open meeting looks like, join me. Take care and God bless and be safe.